Welcome to the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast, part of the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast network, where we put the power of dynamic fitness back in your hands one mental rep at a time. Effective thinking for potent fitness. Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast, a part of the Think Fit, Be Fit network. This season 6, is dedicated to technology that enhances healing, fitness, and wellness, and hopefully all three. Molecular hydrogen is one of the things that we've introduced to our clients here at Impact Your Fitness in Alexandria, Virginia. And our lovely co-host, Angela, loves using it for her own personal wellness care. It hits all the marks for our goals by creating strong networks or feedback in our body to create more natural health. We are continually working with athletes that have lingering injuries and muscle tightness, or people with various types of chronic pain. And we love the idea that this technology, meaning molecular hydrogen, can help us achieve this with our clients. And with that said, we have a wonderful guest today, Greg, the Hydrogen Man, on YouTube as Uprising 144K. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Jenn and Angela. And thank you.
Yes.
I already love your channel based on all the stuff that I've been learning about it. I think what you're doing is great.
Oh, thank you. We're so proud of it. Awesome. And we're going to get right into it. Like I said, we're talking about technology all season. And the first question I have is like, for you personally, so we're fans of your YouTube channel, and and so I would love to know what you believe makes the difference when choosing a piece of technology for your own health and wellness.
Well, I will always begin by saying, I'm not giving any medical advice and I'm not making any medical claims. And in regards to, technology for health, I think is really tricky. When I went through my own health issues and battles, I didn't realize that, in my opinion, there's a lot of stuff out there, dare I say, is maybe not good in the world of health, just like in the pharmaceutical world too. There's good stuff out there and there's not such good stuff. And the world of alternative health, I've seen that a lot too. I know from as far as like devices that purify water, or what some people would call water filters, some are better than others. I won't name any names, but there's even a class action lawsuit right now against a water filter company because their filters were actually contaminating the water and making it worse.
Oh,
and and there's clear evidence of it. And the way that I go about purifying my water is, I do it in a certain way, and I had to do a lot of research about the equipment. I even have lab tests, of what the water would come out like. With hydrogen, it was even more complicated. It was one of the most complicated that I've ever seen, because in my own personal opinion, the majority of what I see out there in the hydrogen world, again, in my opinion, is not good. I would never use well over 90% of the stuff out there in regards to hydrogen. And I have received, unfortunately, emails from people who have had very bad experiences and have been harmed by doing the wrong types of hydrogen. What I can tell you that's interesting is there's a doctor. He's one of the most intelligent doctors in all of Japan. He's actually at the top of his field in regards to he's a neurosurgeon. So people in the medical field, there's different types of doctors, and neurosurgeons are like, they're at the top, neurosurgery, and he's also some type of assistant professor in neurosurgery. So he also graduated from like the #1 university in all of Japan, which is a big deal. The Japanese value education, their universities. It's not easy to get into the #1 university there. And this guy literally, and he uses hydrogen for his patients. So he's actually a specialist in the field, really knows what he's doing. This is the only device he'll use, the one that I use. And it's the only one he says he recommends to his patients. And he says it's because of the purity. And that's one thing that I don't hear almost anybody talking about, because even when you look at oxygen, you can have an oxygen tank that is called medical grade oxygen, and you can have another tank that is not medical grade and used typically for welding or something of the sort. They're both oxygen. The purity is what matters. And that's what that doctor said. He said, it's so important to make hydrogen correctly so that it's extremely pure so that it can not only be safe, but he said when it comes to hydrogen, because it goes past the blood-brain barrier and it's such a wonderful molecule, there's tons of science to show how amazing it is. It's actually medically approved in Japan for obviously certain things. And he was just saying it could potentially be quite dangerous to be using a hydrogen that is not of extremely high purity. Like it could be really bad. And so that's stuff that I've learned, and I'm always trying to learn from the best in the world, not from just random people talking. Like I like to get my data from good sources, and also the science, and follow the science, follow the data. And I mean good science, of course. We all know that certain companies like a sugar company could fund research trying to make sugar look great, and so you have to see who's funding research and that kind of stuff. But yeah, hydrogen has definitely had an uphill battle, and it took a long time for the Japanese to show its magic.
Well, yeah, I personally am just so grateful for the due diligence that you just talked through. And I think that's one of our curiosities as well, is just like, looking at what we use and why we use it, and being able to, ask those questions of various things in our life. Most people, like, when they get water filters or the systems that they use to clean their water or make it drinkable, they don't look for all the things that that can really like give us more confidence of like the purity factors and whatnot. So, and people take advantage, like don't have the, I don't know, they just look past things that we ingest every day and don't put a second thought into it. So I think, that's a great takeaway for all of our listeners. My second question is, okay, so this is a little bit of a inside joke around the studio here. Okay, so some of our clients, so her and I are always offering the clients hydrogen water on Fridays, and we call it Frydrogen Day. And it's a celebration, right? Because like I love like the playfulness of it, and also like actually opening up the conversation to talk about the massive impact it can have throughout the body. And so some of our clients joke that we are drinking alien water. And you know what? We don't deny it. We go with it. And we think it's funny. But also, like, I'm just so tickled by it, because I think we are entering a new age of medicine and wellness, and so, we just go with it. I don't need to like correct them. Like, of course we're not, I don't know, but, so I believe that we're using it, and I wanted to get your thoughts on, new age medicine and where we are collectively in taking care of ourselves.
Well, to respond what you were saying actually about the alien water, I think it's interesting and almost kind of funny. It's probably not really, I don't know if it's really for your audience, but I've kind of discovered, in my own personal opinion, that hydrogen actually appears to have a very spiritual concept or connotation with it. And when I did my research to try to improve my life from, the medical issues that I was having, and there were a lot of them, I like to look at things from every perspective. So, okay, so there might be a spiritual component, but I'm not only going to look at that. I'm also going to look at the scientific data, to see what, where that goes. And then, of course, professionals and even engineers. It's not my forte, but I had to look into it when I was trying to figure out what the best equipment was, what's the best way of making hydrogen. I had to learn about even metallurgy. I mean, there's a lot of things I had to learn about that I was not interested in, only because I wanted the best. And, I always have to learn about these type of things. But the interesting thing about hydrogen, now we are talking specifically about molecular hydrogen. And I specify that because there are different kinds of hydrogen, and they're not all created equal. There's one called deuterium hydrogen, which is a heavy hydrogen, as they call it. There's one that people call Brown's gas, which I wouldn't use, but a lot of people do, even though there's literally zero evidence there's literally almost no scientific evidence to prove that it's got efficacy. But, people talk and people just listen. That's what I mean. That's why I like data. I have to get all the consensus, in regards to trying something and understanding it. And so anyway, molecular hydrogen ascends. I kind of call it the ascension molecule because it's like a balloon. It goes up, and it goes up really far. I mean, it'll go all the way back up to the heavens or to outer space, the cosmos, and the heavens, or the cosmos or outer space, however you want to call it, where the aliens are from. Outer space, I mean, it's primarily made of hydrogen. It's like almost 80% hydrogen, and so I find that the molecule, it's also got so much energy and power. To me, it's interesting that our body can run on it, that it needs it. So that's, something that's another interesting factor. And then the way that it makes our blood move blew my mind. I have a video on my channel. It's video 68. I try to number my videos as much as I can. And I remember a doctor contacted me about that video. She straight up told me, she's like, look, that video you're showing, that's not possible. She said, so, and I said, well, I got it from a lab in Japan, and they use the same equipment I'm using, because it appears to be the best on all my research, which has been a long time coming, and not just my consensus in regards to thinking it's the best. There's a lot of other physicians in Japan. They all say it's the best for numerous reasons. And anyway, that doctor, she's like, you know what I'm going to do if you're open to it? She said, I will get the same equipment they use in that study. I will perform it in my own lab exactly how they did it. And if it doesn't come out like that, are you willing to get on your channel and tell people that you gave information that wasn't correct? And of course I was like, yes, of course I would.
Yes.
I mean, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the channel,
Yeah.
She's like, cause I think you're being duped. And I was like, I didn't think so. But anyway, she did get the machine. She did go to her lab. To make that long story short, and the results, when she called me back, she's like, I can't believe it. The results are exactly the same. This stuff is for real. And she said, this stuff is unbelievable. She became a huge proponent of hydrogen, started using it on her mother, who was like 96 or 98 years old, who literally couldn't stand up and stand for longer than maybe 10, 20 seconds. And she would be exhausted. And it was a funny story because this doctor, this woman, and she would like to go off data too. And she would give her mother, she said, many different things. She'd be trying reishi mushrooms, and she'd be trying some different type of tea, and she'd be trying like some supplement. It was always something. And I guess
she's laughing because she's in that.
She's tried all that. Well, that's why I thought it was such an interesting story, because this doctor was doing the same thing. And of course, her mother trusted her. She's like, oh, she's a doctor. Yeah. And she wouldn't even question it. She would literally receive stuff and just take it, whatever you're telling me to do. She's like, I'll just do it. And then she started bringing her the hydrogen water. She didn't question it. She just started drinking it. And she told me the story, this doctor, she said, my mother, she started being able to get up and walk around for like an hour. And it was massive difference. And then her energy levels, anyway, she was doing really well. And I guess her mother told her, she said, honey, you bring me all these things. I never question you, but this thing that you're bringing me, which to me, it just looks like water. But she said, what the heck is it? Because this is the one. Out of all the things you bring me, this is the one that is really making this difference. And I can feel it. And her mother, she's like, it's hydrogen. And the mother was like, what? Hydrogen? And so it was, and that's just one of, I've been doing this for so long, and there's so many stories. I even have pictures, before and after pictures on my channel, people with dementia and skin issues, and people even losing weight. By the way, I found long-term research. If I don't know if you saw the research I found, and I posted a video about how the hydrogen in the long term. See, I'm all about, when I look at data, here's another problem with looking at data. Short-term versus long-term data. Such a massive difference, right? Yeah. And so I like long-term stuff because, you want something that will benefit you for the long term, not just for a week. And one of the things on the long-term research is they saw that it was the way that it was affecting your liver, and the metabolism was changing of the human body, which was quite amazing.
Oh my gosh.
And the body begins to metabolize fats. And so people lose weight. I literally just posted a video a few days ago of a woman who's lost like 45 pounds and changed nothing. Now, I don't like to tell people that, because then they're like, oh, I don't have to change anything. If you change your lifestyle and on top of it do something like hydrogen, I find that to be way more effective. But there are people who, I don't want to say that they're lazy, maybe, I don't know. But this particular woman was like, I don't want to change my lifestyle at all. She was really, really overweight. I mean, you can see her on the video. Sweet woman, by the way. I'm not trying to say anything negative of her, because I think she's extremely sweet, wonderful woman, and I wanted to see her get more benefits. I mean, she could barely stand up. She's typically in a wheelchair, and I just saw her the other day, and she can stand up and move around like I've never seen. I'm like, what almost 50 pounds does, as far as you being able to pick, stand up and move around. And so it's just been hydrogen has been nothing but a blessing. It's just been such a beautiful thing. And it goes for athletes too, not just for sick people, not just for losing weight, blood glucose too, for diabetics. I got a video about a woman who had even type 1 diabetes. I mean, her doctor it was such a funny story too. I don't know if I should even tell it, but she needed insulin to survive because she's type 1 diabetic. And her doctor, she tried, it's ironic, she tried some of the cheaper hydrogen methods, the pills and different stuff, and it didn't work. And she's like, boy, or it barely made a dent. Like, it just didn't do much. And she was going to give up on the whole hydrogen thing. And she found one of my videos, and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna try this. It sounds like this guy knows what he's talking about. That's what she told me. And and so she tried, my technique, and I kid you not, she was able to go almost 5 months without any insulin. Which, by the way,
oh my God,
should be impossible for a type 1 diabetic. Her doctor noticed this, and he's like, she contacted him and told him, and he's like, there's no way that's impossible. So he brought her into his office, and he tracked her for almost 5 months, because he's like, I need to see everything that you're doing. I need you to write everything. I even have pictures of her like glucometer readings and different things on this video that I did. And the doctor watched this, and I think he was 4.5 months in, and he told her, he said, this is technically impossible, but I'm witnessing it. He said, how are you doing this? Like, he hadn't even asked before all this time. And she said, well, there's this guy on YouTube, and he's like, what? No. He's like, no. He said, you don't understand. This is worthy of a Nobel Prize. He goes, this is like huge. And there's no way. He didn't believe it. He said, there's no way there's some guy on YouTube teaching this. There's just no way. She's like, well, that's where I learned it. And it's hydrogen, and that's what I'm using. And so, and that's not the only story. There's so many that have happened throughout the years. And it continues to blow my mind how beautiful and amazing, it truly is. And the wide variety of things that you can use it for. I mean, unbelievable. So anyway, I don't know if that really answered your question.
I think it did. I mean, heaven, yes, first of all. and second of all, the spiritual component is something that we look for. Even though most of our clients are reaching us through logic and solution-based, we really quickly introduce a spiritual component to in like optimizing the muscular system, because that's actually what we do here in this room, is create more energy for the muscles to use the right sources of energy. And I mean, you hit on all those things right now. So, I'm going to hand over the wheel over here to Angela.
It's really like everything what you just said. And it's what's so remarkable, Greg, is like you were saying, the wide range of application and how it seems to know just what to do for each person, which does sound magical, which is why we're really grateful for all of your research, because you put the numbers and the data behind these really inconceivable claims. And this woman, she's actually, from what we've experienced, she's actually lucky her doctor was curious, because a lot of times they just shut them down. This is what we find. I don't know what your experience is, but it's really wonderful that you're having curiosity with the medical profession. And, we certainly are open to that and bringing everything together that helps. So I would love to hear a little bit more about what you think is the greatest contributor to the widespread action of the body healing? Is it just the energy, the pure energy that it gives people? Is it the like the inflammation being like stopped? What are your thoughts on why it helps so many people so individually?
It's really, it's something that I would say that it might be extremely simple yet complicated. And what I mean by that, probably one of my best examples would be, look at water. What the heck does water do? It's something so simple, but I mean, look at all the trees, all the plants, our body itself. I mean, you need proper hydration literally just to be able to, do anything almost to the body. That's one of the reasons that when you go into like a hospital and there's something crucial going on, they put an IV. It's like, we need you hydrated, just something that simple. But we are talking, I think the Japanese, the question, the way that you pose it, and I'll answer it the way that the Japanese would, because of course I had the same question. They had a list, and I really wish I had it here as a visual, but it was a massive list of all the medical issues that there are, the high blood pressures, the high cholesterols, diabetes, whatever, heart, all these different issues. And the list that they had was a list that they have had scientific evidence that hydrogen has a positive effect on every single one of these conditions, right? And in some cases, the hydrogen literally worked better than any pharmaceutical in existence, by the way. They did studies where they even put them up against pharmaceuticals. And so
you even have to like warn people that if they're on pharmaceuticals, they have to watch out, like for blood pressure. Sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to,
No, you're absolutely correct. That's one of the things that I tell people, I'll tell people, look, be cautious if you're on high blood pressure medication. Be cautious if you're on diabetes medication, to control blood glucose, because obviously I've seen it many times. I've seen when people use the hydrogen, and then all of a sudden, in fact, the lady who was overweight that I just did the video about, her blood pressure was high all the time. And they had her on the maximum amount of the medicine that they were giving her for the blood pressure and barely keeping it under control. She said, I've never had an issue with low blood pressure. It's always been high. And they couldn't give me any more medicine to really bring it down any lower. It would, it could only take so much of the medicine. Hydrogen, for the first time in her life, actually caused it to go too low. And she's like, whoa, it's too low. And I said, I told you to watch out for it. And she didn't believe. She goes, I'll never drop that low. Sure enough, it did. And then she started having to back off the medication. They have actually taken her off certain medicines and lowered others. So it's been having a really positive effect on that front. Some of it, in my opinion, some of it comes from the hydrogen helping, like being so efficient that it's using the medicine more effectively and efficiently, so you don't need as much. And then on the other front, I think it's that hydrogen is going after the underlying problem on top of it. And so it's bringing, these symptoms or the issue down, and you have to monitor it and make sure to get off of the different medicines, which she was obviously very happy about, getting off certain medicines or lowering others. So I've seen that a lot. I definitely would say, definitely consult your physician, right? Make sure that if you're going to be doing hydrogen and you're on certain pharmaceuticals, I mean, people are welcome to email me too, but they really want to have their physicians, or they need to monitor their own blood pressure, their own blood glucose, their cholesterol, whatever it is that they're potentially taking for any condition that they may have. But back to why hydrogen does what it does, I will tell you first that we don't know yet for 100% certainty the full mechanism of hydrogen. It's utterly complex in some way, because they'll do one thing for one person and a whole different thing for another, and they call it a selective antioxidant. So it's like, wow, this thing's selective. But it's more than just that. That's just one of the complexities of it. This is weird to say this, but like when I was reading the literature before even trying it long time ago, I remember reading and I kept seeing how protective it was. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I got video number 8 that shows.
We've seen all of them.
Oh, you have? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'd say the one you referenced, 68, was the first one I saw. And I just remembered that when you said it. Anyways.
The one about the chemotherapy, is that the one you're talking about now for the protection?
Yep,
it's amazing. Yep. The visual is astounding.
Yeah. It is so
amazing.
You
need a librarian. This is it.
You guys
number,
are great.
Number one fan.
I didn't know that you guys, well, I'm so happy that you guys like the information, because I do think it's amazing. It couldn't be easier. I mean, there's certain things in life that are hard for health, like, I got to go work out an hour every day, or, whatever. But drinking water, it's not the hardest thing in the world. The machine was made super easy by the Japanese. I got to give them kudos for that, because they can be extremely complicated. But to make this quality of hydrogen, both the water and the gas inhalation, in one unit for the price is unbelievable, because getting medical grade, super clean hydrogen with the proper levels, I mean, it would be so expensive. It wouldn't be accessible really to most people, let alone having to figure out how to do it. You know, if you got your own lab or whatever, you know, they've made it so simple. It's a one button. You know, they made it small, light, and it looks a little insignificant. It doesn't look like, oh, this thing doesn't look super advanced. It's the metal, you know, the technology within the metal. It's the computer that they're using, which is very simple, you know, but apparently very complex. You know, the Japanese are master at electronics. I mean, they're like, I think, number one in the world when it comes to such things. We all know about Sony and, you know, Yamaha and whatever, you know, a lot of the Panasonic and stuff like that. And so anyway, back to the why hydrogen appears to be so amazing. They have the list of all these issues. Well, next to that was all the medications that you take for each one of these conditions. Like I said, I wish I had the visual because the list of the medications was massive. It was off the page. It was huge. And I was looking at it thinking, oh my God, that's a lot of medicine. I mean, that would drop, you know, that would put me down. It'd probably kill me if I took those things. You know, because of all these conditions, you know, sometimes you see people who have like 30 bottles, right? And they're having to.
Oh, Greg, you're talking to the choir. Like, you know? This is one of the biggest things that I've seen with Jenn's work, and it's just like people get off pharmaceuticals and it's amazing, and it's just their life. Like, people don't understand that these pharmaceuticals come at a price. So what I hear you're saying is that hydrogen provides these benefits without that unintended consequence that sometimes people don't add up, and their physician may or may not tell them up front. And if you are ever cold at night and you want something to warm you, you just use those warning blankets that come with the pharmaceutical, you know. But to your point, like, it's really a worthwhile endeavor to see if you can get off of pharmaceuticals for a variety of reasons.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who really wants to be popping pills all the time? And yeah, anyway, they're no fun, right? And yeah, I've known people who have died from pharmaceuticals, you know, and it's very, very sad. Or people who have deteriorated their hip because their doctor didn't tell them that steroids would do that in the long term. And anyway, on and on it goes. And so, yeah, and I like to be the person, I like to find the root of an issue. Like if I have a leaky roof, I don't want to just throw some duct tape on it. I want to figure out what the heck's going on and do the job right and put shingles and it won't leak or whatever. I just like to do things right. That's just been kind of my motto. And I've never really liked relying on pills. Of course, with my medical issues, they were like, you know, here's anti-inflammatories, here's pain pills, more scans, more blood work. It didn't really lead to too many places. I mean, I worked in the medical field. I worked there for like 2 decades or more. And I saw what went on behind the scenes. And I have I have friends that are doctors, naturopaths. You know, I've met numerous specialists throughout my life. And I knew the game, you know what I mean? And that's why when I got sick, it was so heartbreaking because I thought, oh no, I don't want to go through this because I know what's going to happen. And it went just like I thought it would. In fact, it was worse. It was so difficult to navigate, you know, the whole medical establishment. But I'm sorry, just to go back to, I was saying the list of medical problems, the list of medications, and then they had one little dot and it was hydrogen because it had been effective for all these things. And even the scientists themselves said, how is it possible that one thing could handle all this and potentially replace all these medications? How is that possible? It makes zero sense because all of these work on different mechanisms. It doesn't make logical sense. And the best answer that they came up with, and by the way, this was millions and millions of dollars later, so we all get the information for free, thank God, right? But you know, what you start realizing is free radicals. Free radicals, like even things like ROS, you know, reactive oxygen species, oxidative stress. There seems to be a few common denominators, one being oxygen, oxidizing, oxidative stress, you know, reactive oxygen species. Hydrogen has an affinity for oxygen, hence H2O. H2 is molecular hydrogen, O is oxygen. They're both gases, actually. Together, they make water, right? So you have this free radical or this oxidative stress in your body. Hydrogen, they say it's selective, but it's almost like a magnet. It just seems to go to certain types of oxidative stress. It seems to know the difference, which blows my mind. And it neutralizes it and turns to water. You know, it's like so beautifully simple, but well over 90%, and I believe the number is something crazy like 97 or 98% of all disease comes from oxidative stress. That is the fundamental core part that affects inflammation and disease and everything else. And that's why you were saying hydrogen has been shown to be an anti-inflammatory. Hydrogen is not an oxidant, it appears to be an antioxidant, you know. And the size, I don't know if I've ever shown you this, and I just think it's interesting because whenever I learn things, of course I get excited because we're trying to figure something out, right? And I really would like to figure this out. Are you guys aware of the different sizes of antioxidants?
We heard
Somewhat.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That vitamin C is like 80 times the size of hydrogen or something like that. I think I read on the Hydrofix website.
Oh, so great. So you did hear about it. Do you want me to show you a visual, even though I don't think
Heck yeah, we do.
we'll be able to see it. But let's see if I can give you a visual of sorts here.
And while you're figuring that out and coming over, the size of the molecule determines like where it can go.
I can see.
Come a little bit to the other side. Push out away from you.
Lateral. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
cool.
here's what I'll show you. This giant circle, that's CoQ10. The orange one here, that's vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
This is vitamin E. Mm-hmm. You know, here's glutathione actually. And I don't know if you can see it, but this tiny little dot over here is hydrogen. You almost can't even see it. And so now the reason that that's important. So some people may be like, okay, well, why isn't bigger better? We're in America, right? Big trucks, big engines. I don't know, you know, big Texas. No, but in the world, in the world of health, tiny is where the power truly is because it can penetrate any cell. Hydrogen's so pure. Of course, you want to make it super pure, obviously no chemicals. That's why I don't like the pills, the chemical reaction. I don't like, there's machines, believe it or not, that use lye, sodium hydroxide, which is the main ingredient in Drano, I kid you not, to make hydrogen. To me, it's complete lunacy, but this is what people do. And so hydrogen can go literally right past the blood-brain barrier. It can go right to your brain. In fact, that's one of the reasons they use it in Japan is for like people with strokes. There's clinics that are using it for dementia and Alzheimer's, things of this nature. And in my opinion, of course, which almost nobody talks about, it easily can make it to the pineal gland. Easily. You know.
That's amazing.
And so,
yeah.
You know, so these are little things. Even the #1 university in the world that researches and uses hydrogen medically, which is called Keio University, another Japanese university, they found, this is so beautiful, that hydrogen appears to open up what's called ghost vessels. Have you guys ever heard of this?
We were just talking about this before because I heard you talk about it. And this is part of our work. Sorry, I want to interject this because it flows right with what you're saying. We help with muscle activation technique and core restore, awaken those pathways. And I guess we can call them ghost pathways, or I would love to hear more about these ghost capillaries and what they found. Go.
So ultimately, this is what they found. They found, so when we're young, like when we're a little baby or whatever, we're getting blood everywhere. We're all plumped up, we're well hydrated. And as we age, there's numerous things that happen. Obviously, one of them, like our stomach acid goes down, you know, how much stomach acid we make. But one of the other things that happens is these vessels stop getting blood in them. They're like ghost towns. And so you're not getting blood everywhere. I think it's also one of the reasons, you know, it's a very popular thing for doctors to do lately is they like to prescribe statins, you know, to make the blood a little, you know, to make the blood a little thinner, a little more viscosity. They're trying to get the blood everywhere and make sure that there's no blockages, things of this nature, right? Well, and that's all well and good, but hydrogen appears to open up these ghost vessels and you're starting to get blood in these areas. Now, why is that a good thing? Now, this goes back to something a little spiritual. There's in ancient scripture, it's written, life is in the blood, right? So if I put a rubber band around my arm, my whole arm is going to go numb. And not only will it go numb, eventually it'll start turning black. I mean, it's going to die. We need blood for life. And I'll come back to that in a second on some other research that's so fascinating in regards to that. But we need that blood. So if you're not getting blood because the blood is a carrier, right? The blood is carrying certain nutrients, the minerals, you know, the amino acids. It's carrying these things that feed the tissues, right? We're feeding them all these different things. So if you open up these vessels that weren't getting blood and you start getting blood in there, and see, part of my technique, it's not just, my technique is clean water and hydrogen, but it's also overcoming all nutritional needs, so having no deficiencies, because almost every American is deficient in something. So I'm really big on that. So I did a lot of.
She just got a micronutrient test that
really
scored off the chart.
Yeah,
so she's winning.
I keep walking around the studio. I'm like, look at my super blood.
Because we also know how important it is.
Yeah.
So exactly to punctuate your point.
And it's so simple too. I'm surprised. I'll tell you right now that I am surprised how many doctors don't talk about it, because we do have clear evidence that when you're deficient in something, it leads to disease. Kind of like being deficient in vitamin C leads to scurvy, And there's so many different types of like we've had proof of this, and we've actually done. There's been studies where they make an animal deficient, he gets a certain illness, and then they fix the deficiency, and the illness goes away. And so when I was sick, I thought I need to overcome all nutritional deficiencies then, because I don't know which one it's going to be. And plus, it'll just make me healthier, right? It's going to help me try to recover. And so opening these pathways with all the nutrients, I mean, it's so simple and it's so logical that we should do this. And so, you want the blood moving too, as you saw in video 60. So your blood is moving, you're opening up, these ghost vessels, and things are moving. And also the way that hydrogen appears to help regulate pH of the blood, which, for a lot of people, I'm sure you guys know that pH stands for potential hydrogen. That's what pH stands for. Yeah. And so the beautiful thing about that is when we're breathing in oxygen, which we're breathing in roughly 20%, roughly depending on your atmosphere, where you are in altitude, your atmospheric pressure, your body, if your pH is better regulated in your blood, you're able to utilize that oxygen more effectively. I've worked with people. This is a funny story. There's a guy, I don't know if it's so funny, but he would smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day for 50 years. Unbelievable. And he contacted me not long ago because this poor guy, his oxygen saturation was extremely bad. And he got on oxygen. Doctors are like, hey, here, use your oxygen. The problem is with oxygen, it's great. Remember I told you short-term versus long-term? Short-term, it'll look great, right? You'll get that boost. Everything looks great, but the body begins to adapt. And it's like, wow, we're getting all this oxygen. You know what I mean? This is why pro athletes or really smart people, they actually do the opposite. They mimic high altitude. So they'll try to give themselves less oxygen, not more. Now, granted, later on, because that appears to build, like you get more red blood cell production, because your body's like, hey, there's not much oxygen. I need to do more red blood cells. And then you could do oxygen maybe for, a couple of days or whatever and get that boost. But it's a cycle, and you got to learn how to do it. Very different than hydrogen, obviously, for example. And so by helping regulate that pH with this gentleman who was completely dependent on oxygen, by the way, completely dependent. He couldn't get off of that thing for 1 minute. He would go 5-10 seconds and he's like, I need to get back on this oxygen. He became more and more dependent. And that's something I've always observed in the medical establishment with oxygen, right? Well, starts using the hydrogen, and I'm not kidding you. He recently got back to me because he's like, dude, he's very thankful. Let's just put it that way. Thank you so much for your videos, because he is now able to go like 3 or 4 hours without being on that oxygen. And so he's able to have these huge gaps in time where he can go without it, and his oxygen saturation is getting better. And yet he's not even taking in particularly oxygen. He's using hydrogen, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just so beautiful, and there's so many stories like that. If you have anything else you want to say, but there was another one about a woman with TBI. That one actually made me cry, but TBI, traumatic brain injury. Mm-hmm. I think hydrogen is going to change the world in so many ways. Yes, in athletics. Yes, in the world of medicine. Just preventative care. Just health in general. But I also think the hydrogen is going to change the world in agriculture. I already have ideas on how to use it agriculturally to make
our plants here love it. We give them the hydrogen water.
Yeah.
And I have other ideas on how to enhance the utilization of hydrogen to potentially, and I can't guarantee this yet until I see it work, but in theory, it all makes sense that I'm not kidding you. We could grow food that the world hasn't seen for thousands of years, food that is so ridiculously nutritious that I don't have to make a giant smoothie like I do with putting all this stuff. But because I know that the food that I use, the fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds when I make my crazy smoothies, I know that food's deficient. I know the food's deficient in minerals. I know it's deficient in nutrients. Not that it doesn't have any, but I know it's deficient. So I add things to the smoothie to compensate. There's a powder I add. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Power Shake from iShopPurium.com. don't know if you've seen that. And I add that to it because it brings the nutrients up. It's like my multivitamin. And then I also add minerals. And it was ironic because I was adding the minerals. In my mind, I was just thinking, well, I know that food is deficient in minerals, so I'm going to add them and create my perfect concoction, right? Well, I ended up running into a study. This was many, many months after I'd been doing this for like 6 or 8 months. I found a study where they'd actually done that. It was the craziest thing. They added minerals to fibers from fruits and vegetables, fiber. And the study ended up showing something that the scientists didn't even expect. People's bones were rebuilding. So their bones were getting stronger. And they're like, what? And they realized the minerals working synergistically with those fibers for the absorption. And so just little things like that. I mean, and they're all, I always like to come up with something or figure something out that is actually applicable, something we can apply to our lives. It always frustrates me when I hear some guy on doing a TED talk or something, and he talks about something so magnificent that none of us can have access to. It's like, well, that's great, but none of us, that drives me nuts. And when I first heard about hydrogen, it was kind of like that, because you couldn't get hydrogen when I was first reading about it. And I'm thinking, what do I got to do? Open up a lab and figure this out? I thought this is going to be so hard. And I don't even know if you know the story of the guy who created this machine, the one that I like that is handmade in Japan. It's the only machine in the world that's lab tested. Obviously, it's the best machine in the world. But do you guys know the story about the guy who created this and why he did it? Do you guys know this?
We do, but yeah.
Our
love
listeners
to hear it.
Don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, this guy, unfortunately, his daughter was born sick. She was born with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. They told him that, she'd be lucky to make it to the age of 5. And for anybody who has kids, I don't know if you can imagine how heartbreaking that would be. But he knew about hydrogen and he knew the data. And to him, it really seemed like it would be something to benefit her. But it's really hard to get medical grade hydrogen at your house. So he set out, and I don't even know the guy, honestly, but I've heard of him and whatever. But I'm just so grateful that he did this, because one of the things that apparently he said was, I am not going to take any shortcuts. I am not going to have this thing made in China, which most everybody does. I'm not even going to get the parts made in China. He's like, this is not what I'm going to do. And he went to top industries with top engineers, because in Japan, it's very different culturally. I don't think this could have ever worked in America. But a lot of people don't know that in Japan, they're very much willing to work together. So you may have a company like Toyota, you may have a company like Honda or Subaru, and you think, oh, they're all battling for supremacy and who makes the best product or cars or whatever. But they actually work together. Like Toyota is literally using Subaru's all-wheel drive technology. And Toyota gave Subaru their hybrid technology, and they work together. And so he went out of his way, and he had Toyota, he had Yamaha, he had G-Shock, the watch company, and he had some other company, I can't even remember the name of it, that specializes in metals, all with the hopes of creating this device that was just, it ended up surpassing all expectations, by the way. But I love that he did it that way. Instead of doing it for the money, he's like, look, I don't care if it's more expensive. I want it done right, because my daughter's going to be using this. And his daughter now is like, I believe she's like 13 years old now or something. So she has over doubled her life expectancy. And the difference that it's made on her, and this is the thing, that the difference that it made on her is a difference that I've seen for many. And that's how hydrogen appears to significantly lower the risk of infection. So for example, a lot of people are unaware that if you drink 1 can of soda pop, just 1 can, the amount of sugar in that, and it suppresses your immune system for roughly 6 to 8 hours, somewhere in that range, and raises your risk for infection for about those 6 to 8 hours. It could be viral infection, it could be bacterial infection, the sugar, right? The sugar spike. Hydrogen appears to help lower the risk of getting infections, which is one of the things that was happening to his daughter constantly. She was getting lung infections constantly. And I literally have known people that hydrogen has had that effect on them, significantly lowering the probability of infection. So just that in itself is, a pretty big deal. And anyway, on and on it goes. Go ahead.
No, it makes so much sense. If you're talking about waking up ghost capillaries in that blood flow video, if there's energy and the nutrients in the cells, then your body can fight off invaders, and so the pH also has to do with that. And it's very compelling. And like you said, I love it that it's practical. It's one of the biggest things I found, well, a bunch of things, and it's growing and growing. That list from using it is more energy. Specifically, like the first couple times I couldn't drink it too late because I would just be like up all night and just, it wasn't jittery, but I was definitely like in my bed, like, whoa. And then also an increase in core body temperature, which I heard you talk about that the other day. And that's a huge thing that we talk about with respect to the river of life. Like, is everything in your body flowing and circulating? Can I eliminate what doesn't belong? Can I keep what does? And how do I maintain that balance so I can live my life? You know, because it can get easy to, like, with all this technology coming out, that's why I love the simplicity of what we're talking about, because it can get very easy to get caught up in all of those nutrients, which are super important. Don't get me wrong, but you could have 500 supplements, right? And spend your whole day, you know, figuring out what's off, or you can, you know, just cover the basics, get mineralized, stay hydrated, get your muscles healthy, you know, like and fix or address emotional baggage, which is a huge component of health, you know, and in our opinion. And that's what I heard you were talking about, this one guy whose personality kind of changed, or just that maybe the hydrogen and the increase. Also, here's another thing. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself because we're so excited about this. A lot of pharmaceuticals we see people on actually have been shown to shrink the brain and reduce circulation to the brain. So thinking clearly is a high priority for us. If I can't think clearly, then everything else is suspect, right? So let me make that a priority. And if I can increase the circulation to my brain, then that can only help in those ways. And it also requires energy to be joyful and patient. And, you know, one thing, Jen and I have a lot of fun. I don't know if you can tell that, but, you know, we really, we love you. It's like, really, part of the medicine that we bring to people is joy. And it requires energy and health to be joyful. And that's a spiritual practice to me to be healthy. So we don't separate those two, logic, mind, and heart, but rather we bring them all together in this beautiful emanation of humanity. I'm really excited to hear along with you, what is possible now. And it's wonderful that we're able to get out, and your channel is amazing at disseminating this information. The people that profit off illness cannot stop this. That's what it seems to be true. And we do have sometimes barriers to entry with people because they've been through so much that they all have like Stockholm syndrome. Maybe we all do, right? Or just like, you know, and we're not, you know, making anybody bad or wrong, because there's applications for all kind of things, but rather we're saying, what is the most life affirming choice I can make? And for me, for sure, go with hydrogen, is constantly hydrogen. And we love pumping people with alien water. And, and at first glance, I just want to mention this, because at first glance, people say, oh, it's an investment, it's expensive. But the truth is, long term, it's the least expensive, most cost effective technology that I found. And like what you were saying, the Japanese did an amazing job of not cutting corners. Because if I take anything away from your message, is like, don't skimp on this, guys. Like, you could really pay the price. Because oftentimes we come to these things because we're already maybe know that we need help. So the worst thing you can do if you need help is to continually or poison yourself even more, which sadly is the case when people skip corners. And also what I found at the Hydrofix, there's a payment option even. Like, they make it really available for people. Sorry, that was my rant. Like, also being sick is expensive. Like, it's really way more expensive than the investment in your health. And sometimes it can be a challenge to paint that picture for innocent people who've been traumatized and have, you know, been propagandized into a system. And, you know, so we're just trying to build a bridge. And one last thing before I stop my rant is that we're both so touched by your own story, because you're literally a human bridge and you lived it. And, you know, thank you so much for all of your efforts to prevent other people from suffering and sharing, you know, how we all can like make this world a much better place. Thank you so much.
You know, thank you guys too. And, it's funny because there's so many different perspectives and ways that you could look at the whole thing. And the thing that I never like that unfortunately we have to think about is money. when it comes to like our health, like, okay, what am I going to spend my money on? Or I've spent so much. I mean, I've talked to so many people who have spent massive amounts of money on things that really didn't get much benefit. And, you're actually correct, because what's ironic is one of the number one ways that people want to use hydrogen, because they think it's cheap, and that's the hydrogen pills, which again, I would never use it now that I know what's in them and everything else. But the reason they run to it is they're like, look, I can get a bottle for $59 or whatever, right? Then they go through the bottle in a couple of weeks or whatever, and then they buy another one. Ironically, like you were talking about in the long term, it's the most expensive way of using hydrogen that I've ever seen, right? And the hydrofix, yes, there's an initial cost that is more, but in the long term, I found exactly the same thing to be true that you said. It actually ends up being the cheapest, because the machine is so well built, so reliable. And of course, you're getting the right type of hydrogen, and you're not just getting the water, you're getting the gas. And so for the long term, it really is the best. And so you really have to figure out, and it's funny because you were talking about having 300 supplements or whatever it was, or 50. I can't remember what number you gave, but what I was going to say too is I ran into that myself, where I started, because when I was trying everything, when I was trying to get better, and I see all these supplements, and after a while, I by the way, I had to start digging and found out that there's a lot of ingredients in these supplements that aren't really good oftentimes. And I'm looking at all this thinking, here I think I'm being healthy, but look at all the stuff that I'm taking. There's no way that this is not straining my kidneys. I know this stuff's got to be straining my kidneys. And probably my liver on top of it. So I started thinking, like, how do I do this? And when I created my personal protocol is quite simple. The initial cost, it's not a ton, but there is an initial cost. But after that, it becomes extremely cheap. And that was, I needed my carbon distiller to completely clean my water, like to the highest degree. I need my hydrogen generator, right? That's literally the main stuff. Beyond that, there's a few little things that I buy. I buy this little bottle of minerals, got to get my minerals, especially since carbon distillers strip them all, so I have minerals. I get this powder from iShopPurium.com. And this powder, all I use it for is for my nutrients. It's like a multivitamin, because I don't take a multivitamin. Why? And I'm not against multivitamins, by the way, but the research shows that the body responds to food the best, right? Even better than a vitamin. So this powder that I'm using, it wasn't even intended to be a vitamin, but I looked at the label and it had all the ingredients. I liked them, but it had all the nutrients that a multivitamin would have, except for one. The only thing that didn't have was vitamin D, right? But it had everything else. So I started putting that powder in my smoothies. So that would be my multivitamin. And the only thing that I buy is vitamin D3 with K2 in a liquid form. I add it to my smoothie, because D, as we all know, vitamin D is one of the most difficult nutrients to get, right? And beyond that, it was that simple. I don't have a cupboard full of supplements, and I'm not kidding you. I was doing my blood work regularly to make sure that my methods were working, right? I didn't want to go down the wrong path here. And I literally, not long ago, I had a doctor call me, and if anybody knows anything in the medical establishment, you typically don't want to get a call. They usually call you when there's a problem. And I'm quite aware of that. When they called, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I got nervous. I was like, oh no, did I do something wrong? What is my blood work showing? And I told the lady, I'm like, well, what is it? She goes, yeah, there's something going on with your blood. Yeah, what is it? What is it? I was freaking out. She said, well, honestly, I'm actually just curious about what you're doing, because I've never seen blood like yours. It's unbelievable. And she said, I want to know what you're doing. And the only time, or the very few times that I see doctors be interested, because there's a massive amount of doctors that are not. They're just like, oh, you're doing better? Great. I don't even want to hear why. But there's always a percentage, and the majority of those people who do end up reaching out to me and the doctors that I've talked to is because either they're sick or their family members are sick. It's almost always for those reasons. So at that point, they're like, okay, forget my medical training. What are you doing, brother? Because, I'm looking at your blood. I'm looking at what's going on.
What did she see specifically? What does that mean? Unbelievable. Like, what was...
The biggest thing that she saw that really intrigued her was my level of nutrients. Because she said, we've even tried to give supplements, the big ones that she was really looking at was iron, and she was looking at vitamin D. And she saw my B12 also. And there was a bunch of other stuff, but she was blown away because I wasn't deficient. She's like, everybody's deficient in something. How are you accomplishing this? Now, this is obviously, this upsets a lot of people, and I hope it doesn't upset anybody. And I'm always okay with agreeing to disagree. And I'm not saying that you can't do things differently than the way I've been doing them. But when she asked me, she's like, first, I need to know how you're getting your iron because I have a daughter. See, it was because of her daughter, right? That how it was having issues with iron deficiencies. And when I told her that I don't eat meat, she just couldn't believe it. She's like, wait. You don't eat meat? I'm like, I don't eat meat. I don't really eat eggs, cheese, seafood. You know, like once in a while, you know, like if I have a friend that caught a beautiful fish, you know, and he has a meal, I might have a huge salad and put some fish on it, you know, but it's a rarity. I'm talking about 90 something percent of the time, the way that I normally live. She just couldn't wrap it around her mind. She's like, I just can't believe your iron levels and you don't eat meat. She goes, wait a second, how long have you not been eating meat? I'm like, easily over a decade. She's like, what? She just couldn't believe it, you know? And one of the big reasons there's many reasons why I eat that way, but one of them is I want to keep my veins really squeaky clean because I don't want buildup of plaque and, you know, cholesterol or even heme iron floating around my blood too often, as we know with the data, you know, what that does. I just want to keep my veins clean because I want my blood moving. But I also want the nutrients, you know, and probably one of the biggest things that almost nobody talks about, and there is evidence, really old evidence, but it's still a topic that people don't talk about, is the Japanese have been doing really amazing research on fiber. And I don't mean any type of fiber, primarily fiber from vegetables and fruits. And of course, nuts, seeds and stuff, but the things that they've been showing with fiber, it all intrigued me when I saw the first study that showed that if you consume vegetables first thing in the morning, like let's say you get up in the morning, I always drink my hydrogen water first, and then I go get my breakfast. And if you consume vegetables, which I was thinking, who consumes vegetables for breakfast? I mean, who does that, right? Probably not too many people. People either have a coffee and a donut or a bagel or toast and eggs and bacon or whatever, right? Sausage McMuffin, I don't know. You know, people consume whatever, you know, in the morning, but they don't do vegetables. In the study, and I don't even think this was the purpose of the study, they discovered that vegetables first thing in the morning would literally help regulate blood glucose all day long. And they were like, whoa, why does it do that? And there ended up being a lot of research to figure it out, which ended up opening, this is what I love about the Japanese research, is they ended up discovering things about our body that we didn't know. This is like new parts of our body and figuring out how they work. And so when I heard that, I remember thinking to myself, okay, how am I going to get vegetables in my body first thing in the morning? And that's when I came up with the smoothies, because I can put so many vegetables in it and maybe throw one banana just for flavor.
And then some natto.
Oh yes, you know,
the secret power.
Oh man, and you know, for people who don't know, natto has almost as much protein as beef, but on top of it, it has that special enzyme, you know, the nattokinase or nattokinase, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It has wonderful amounts of fiber. One of the reasons that I like to use it is because many of the ingredients in my smoothie produce. It's a type of nitric oxide, basically. Type of gas, not nitrous oxide, but nitric oxide, right? Opening up the blood vessels. And then you know what hydrogen does, the way it moves the blood. And by the way, I have great absorption of nutrients. So that's another thing I'm big on. It's like, you can put in all these pills you want, but you need to absorb the stuff, right? So I'm properly hydrated with hydrogen. And then natto is a natural blood thinner. So it naturally thins the blood a little bit. So you just get that natural blood thinner with the hydrogen moving it and opening up those ghost vessels with all the nutrients. That was the vision in mind, and I wanted to prove it with my blood work. And ultimately, it appears that it worked. And like I said, I've had literally physicians that they literally just can't believe it. It's hilarious because it's like hearing something at school and they're saying this is impossible, and then you're seeing it and you're like, oh my gosh, but this shouldn't be possible. They're so brainwashed. I mean, you know, it's not to be negative against the establishment. They just need to be more open, you know, to other things that are out there. And that's where we're probably at. I know that I'm on the cutting edge. I talk to, I mean, I literally train physicians oftentimes. One of them even made fun of me one time. And I actually got a little tired of him doing that. And one time he was in front of a computer because I was telling him about some research in Japan where they figured out that there appears to be a correlation between parasites and cancer, which we've heard of that before, but there really wasn't like clear evidence. And I mean, the Japanese are going to win probably not one Nobel Prize. They're probably going to get, my understanding is possibly 3 for this discovery. And it's such a big deal because they're going to be able to diagnose cancer in a non-invasive way. They're not going to have to do biopsies and all this stuff. They'll catch the cancer super early. You'll be able to catch it so early with a $99 test, and it's a simple p-test, and it's so accurate. It can catch it at stage 0. It can catch it just at the beginning of it. It's really unbelievable. And that's another, I've done a few videos on that, but the doctor was making fun of me, and he was like, dude, you're off your rocker. This doesn't, what are you talking about? This is not true. And I had him look it up right then and there. And I was like, you're going to have to read this for just 5 minutes, and he did. And then eventually, I remember him looking at me and just being like, how did you know about this? And I was like, how did you not know? You're the you're the doctor here. And I was like, dude, this stuff's been out for like 2 years, brother. It's not like this just came out yesterday. And he was so blown away. And every time I run into him now in the future, he's always like, so what's new? Did you discover anything? He's always wanting to pick my brain, where before he used to make fun of me, because he was a very smart guy. He was a very intelligent doctor, hence the reason I liked him. But he was not very open-minded. He was thoroughly brainwashed. But
oh, wow. I mean,
so much.
So I know when I get a good episode, when I enter this like energetic synergy with the guests, I can like feel it. I really I feel that now. And it's one of my favorite things about podcasting. Selfishly, I get a lot of energy from it. I also got some takeaways on my own routine, like the lack of hunger that I experience when using hydrogen, molecular hydrogen. And I mean, there's several benefits. I've personally done a lot of work with parasites and, using, helping me decide what tools I'm going to use for my own wellness. And and this is for you, audience. Like, we are going to be talking about that this season. I'm bringing on some critter friendly information. But with that said, we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
I'd love to know. We got a random question. This is super random.
Sure.
What is your favorite snack?
My favorite snack.
Yeah.
Well, this is where, it's okay. I wish there was, I probably have a lot of simple answers in regards to this. One of the weird ones is my smoothies. It's so weird because I will have a dinner, and sometimes when I just want a dessert or something, I'll literally go pour myself a little bit of my smoothie. It's like, dude, this is crazy because, some people be like, okay, I can only have so much of this. But there is a product that I really like. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a product called Apothecary. Have you guys ever heard of this?
No.
It's
what?
It's from the same company that I shop Purium one, because somebody approached me a long time ago about it, and I thought, no. But then I looked into it, and I became very impressed with their product, so I use it all the time. And I have discount codes if you guys want them. But the Apothecary was one of the products I thought, I'm not going to try it. But one of the people from the company, they're like, hey, no, we really want you to try it. It's so amazing. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I'm such a skeptic, by the way, for people who don't know. I'm very wary of products. It's like, too many products, overload. And so Apothecary is just, the only ingredient in it is tart cherries. That's all it is. But it's condensed down. It's concentrated. So it's almost like a syrup. And man, yes, it has natural melatonin in it. People report better sleep, and there's evidence. And actually, I just found a recent article that it appears that it might function as an NSAIDs, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, like ibuprofen, but it's just cherries, right? And sometimes I'll pour just a tiny little bit in a cup, almost like I'll just sip on it just a little bit. And it just tastes like super wonderful cherries. And so that's it's not really a snack, but sometimes I'll do that.
We're going to allow it. We'll allow that.
So between that. But I mean, if we're talking junk food, are you talking junk food, by the way, or just what I like in general?
We're just like, it's, I think it's, junk food is, it's not something that's in our snack corner. But it's more or less like, we just really like food. So we just think it's a fun thing to wrap up with, And
I love Fuji apples too. Like I'll slice, and I like to have them sliced a certain way, real juicy. A nice Fuji apple.
That is a good variety of apple. Yeah.
Honeycrisp also noteworthy.
Honeycrisp.
Honeycrisp. Yep, absolutely.
Well,
but to your point though, I will say this to your point, and this is really fascinating to me, is how hydrogen has allowed me to control my eating habits way better, because you were saying it takes away kind of that hunger, and it has helped so much, because I used to have problems. Like, I couldn't go to bed unless I ate a bowl of cereal, like a good sized bowl of cereal, and that's a terrible thing to do before you go to bed. Now I definitely go to bed on an empty stomach. I want to go to bed total empty stomach, allow my body to rest, while I'm sleeping, and it's helped a lot in regards to controlling my appetite. And with time, even the things that I desire have changed. So I'm talking about an apple for dessert. It's like, what? That would have never satisfied me before. People want the cheesecakes or the coconut cream cakes or cupcakes or whatever, but I've really steered away in a massive way away from those type of sugary, those carbs. I've shied away from that, and it hasn't been that difficult. And I think the effort, the smoothies, but the hydrogen have helped more than I would have ever imagined. So very interesting.
And I'd love to get a shout out to Hydrofix before we sign off, because we're enjoying some molecular hydrogen water. We didn't mineralize it, but we usually do. We had to make an impromptu quick, but so what's your, you introduced me to it, and then she introduced me to Uprising 144K, so so quick shout out to Hydrofix. Their links and a discount code will be in the show notes. I can't say enough about them, because obviously it's a great piece of technology, but also they made this conversation happen, and I can't wait to see the ripple effect of all of that.
Well, how about the name of the official company, Holy Hydrogen? I thought
Holy Hydrogen, at Holy Hydrogen on Instagram, at Holy Hydrogen on the web.
And I was like, wow, that's and holy being something that's pure, and the purity. They're so about the purity, and I thought that was so important. And that's the other thing, the Purium company. They call them Purium because they're pure and premium products, and they put that name too, And the water one I like is called mypurewater.com. So they use the word pure, and like I said, holy even means pure. So I found this funny thing that of the products I liked that I use for my well-being, they all had that one thing in common. And I thought, wow, that is so weird, because they're all separate companies. So very strange.
Amazing. Angela, do you have anything else to add before we...
Gosh, just thanks so much for everything. And, big shout out again. The machine is so easy to use, and it's so, it's just practical and easy, and just so grateful for all of these emerging technologies and to be a part of this conversation.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Greg, I'm going to have you hold on for just a second while this loads up. And again, this is going to be a great season of Think Fit, Be Fit, and I'm so glad we did this. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening and being a part of the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast network. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and family. If you're interested in further resources, check out or visit our website, thinkfitbefitpodcast.com.